Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Penji Weekly. This is going to be a weekly, just kind of webinar slash talk show Ben and I are going to do. The goals for it are, first of all, to inform, you directors, our community on new features that are coming out. But then also, we're going to try to actually build a little community amongst you all so you can share best practices. We're going to have a Discord channel, and we'll talk more about that in future weeks. For now, though, I do want to just do a quick sort of housekeeping. So we are going to, we emailed this to all of our partners for the first one. We're going to do the same thing for the second one. But going forward, you're going to have to subscribe to a specific newsletter if you want to get updates about this. It's only going to be 2 emails per week. So the first one will be, this is what's coming in the next episode. And the second one will be the recording. So we're going to record all these, share them. Hopefully it's useful. I know I'm excited to see kind of how the series unfolds. We did post in the original email that we're looking for a potential new name. So right now it's just Penji Weekly, but we got one suggestion for the Penji Waddle, which is apparently the name of a group of penguins. What do you think about that one, Ben?
It's great. It's great. Keep them coming. We'll
yeah.
do voting.
And I guess, by the way, as a quick intro, some of you may know me, but not the other Ben. Some of you may know Ben, but not me. So we're both Ben. That's pretty easy. I'm a co-founder and kind of leading sales and partner success. And Ben, who you probably know, is co-founder and CEO of Penji. So just looking forward to getting to know all of you. I did just post a link in the chat to sign up for the newsletter if you'd like to do that. And for now, I think we should kind of hop into the main topic for this weekly discussion. So this week, we're going to be talking about the tutor calendar. We had a pretty big update to it recently, and it just rolled out. So we're going to go over the update, as well as talk about the future roadmap. And we do want to kind of solicit questions, feedback, and make this a little interactive. So if any questions come up, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we'll kind of be reviewing those throughout the event. So with that, Ben, do you want to go ahead and kind of give a little bit of background about, at a high level, what's changed in the tutor calendar recently? And then I know we're going to share screens in a second.
Yeah, definitely. So over the last kind of year or two, we've had a couple modes of support emerge in Penji, sort of the appointments and drop-in, as well as sections. Those are the 3 modes that we support right now. There's a couple changes to the calendars that everyone should know about, and we'll share screens, as Ben said, to point this out in the system. But small design change where we're reorganizing where the calendars are so that your drop-in calendar and your appointment calendar, kind of the same workflow for tutors, which should be a little bit more intuitive. And then there's one pretty big feature that has been requested for quite some time, and that would be kind of granular location preferences on a tutor's hour blocks of appointments. So the first step for this, what we took last year, where got this big appointment calendar, you've got all these possible locations in your system. You all are probably familiar with those location lists right now. We started by putting location preferences for tutors where they could just turn off and on certain locations globally. So kind of for their entire calendar, when a student requests a session with me as a tutor, I maybe turned off one location that's way across campus that I don't want to teach at and that kind of thing. So that's already been in, but what we've done now is we've added location preferences for individual blocks of time. And one of the big triggers is that we're bringing on a couple advising programs this fall, and this was an absolute must-have for those, whereas for tutoring centers, it's more of a nice to have. But I think it'll be useful for everybody. So just the basic idea is that on today, Wednesday afternoon, I could have Zoom only appointments 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. But then on Thursday, I could be doing in-person only appointments at this one center. And then Friday, I could be doing a blend of all of them or something like that. So kind of that granular location settings for individual hour blocks is the feature we're talking about today.
Perfect. So yeah, I guess, as everyone knows, with drop-in, we've always had the different rooms. So drop-in, you put in Zoom hours versus in-person hours. This is basically adding that same functionality to appointments. So Ben, do you want to go ahead and kind of pull the screen up, and we'll do a little walkthrough There's one pretty big change in the design that you'll want to know as directors for instructing your tutors on kind of how to do this. And then once again, if you have any questions during the walkthrough, just put some comments in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those.
Yeah, let's do it. So I will share screens. There. Screen coming through okay?
Yep.
Great. All right, so just to reorient everybody, we have our admin panel here. This is where program settings and data are loaded in. We've got courses, so these are where students can book for these different courses. We have tutors. In the eligibility here, we've got some various accounts eligible for certain courses. And then we have locations. So locations are important in terms of these are where students can book. We have 2 in-person locations and 2 online locations to use as an example. This is what we'll be using to turn off and on certain location blocks, or rather, these will be the options for that feature. We also have drop-in locations, which is a separate heading. And as Ben mentioned, we've always had individual calendars for each drop-in location. So these have always been location-specific calendars. This has usually just been one big calendar with all locations added under it. That's for appointments. And so we'll show how that's changed a little bit. So we have the students, basically my account here. We are in the Learning Center demo community. And so I am a tutor. The big design change that maybe will surprise you or that you might have noticed is that there used to be a calendar icon here on the side menu. That is no longer there. So what we've done is we've actually moved that to the teach screen alongside the drop-in availability editing button. It used to be 2 different areas. You would have to go to view drop-in rooms, edit your hours to add hours to a specific calendar for drop-in. And so that was how that worked. But then we had this calendar icon on the side, which is kind of a vague name, for appointment availability. So what we've done is we moved that over here. These buttons are right next to each other, and you can edit your appointment availability directly. So I'm going to pause there, Ben. Any clarifying questions you think we should address on that?
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, the calendar tab is gone. I know the first time each of us discovered that, we were in the middle of a demo. So we were both a little shocked, and we knew the feature was coming. But so yeah, let's look at the appointment availability now. What happens if you click that?
Yeah, so when we hit edit appointment availability, it takes you to that familiar screen, which is just like it used to be, or looks like it used to be on the calendar side menu icon. But there is a change now in terms of how you enter new availability. So let's say I wanted to add a block for Thursday afternoon because I'm working a shift in the center and I'm not accepting online appointments. That could be a design decision you make, is you could have tutors working only in-person appointments in the center, but then maybe online appointments in evenings or something like that. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But let's say 12 to 4 p.m. is my shift in the center. So now when I click, I'm no longer tapping out blocks like we used to be. It's sort of a Google Calendar or other calendar style flow for picking your start time and end time and adding that block to the calendar. So start time 12, end time, let's say it was 4 p.m. So that's fine. Day of week is Thursday. And then here's the location setting. So we can use specific locations or any locations. In this case, I'm working only in-person appointments at the main Student Success Center. So I'm just going to tag that block with that. Once that's saved, that gets put on the calendar per those settings. I can go and edit that and check out which locations that block is for just by clicking on it, or I can delete it entirely. So that's that. And as mentioned, there could be the other use case where you'd like tutors to take online appointments in the evenings. So I'm just going to add 6 to 9 p.m. as well. Thursday, location specific, and I'll be doing Zoom and I'll be doing GoBoard. This community supports both online options and students can select between the two. So I'll hit save. And that is there. So yeah, that's the basics of entering these times. Just as a reminder, and we can take a look if you want to, Ben, but from the student side, The student will pick a course. They will pick a time where they want support. Maybe they pick 6 p.m. on Thursday. They'll pick the tutor, which would be me, maybe. And then the locations will appear. And that is where that filtered view of just those online locations will show up. So it's sort of on the student side when they're making a request that this feature has an impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I think, some of this might be pretty obvious to everyone listening, but what are some of the implications of this new calendar? Like, what can directors now do with Penji that was maybe a little more difficult to do before, now that they can say, this day you're only on Zoom, this day you're in person?
Yeah, I think, one of the big points of Penji, really, one of the big values that it adds is streamlining all the different kind of options you might have in managing your center, a hybrid center, an online and in-person center, into one place. And so I think this feature is an extension of that, an important piece of that. So I'd say the baseline model that, a lot of you have probably considered already, but I think it's going to be really effective, is having in-person hours. So maybe your normal 8 to 5 center where you have tutors working at the center, and then taking advantage of those off-hour opportunities where you can make them Zoom or video only. So that would be 8 to 5 hours maybe at the center, and then you can have your tutors working in the evenings and on the weekends, just with Zoom only. This increases convenience for your tutors. It allows you to even say, well, you can offer appointments up till midnight if you want to. And this is an option that I think most centers haven't presented to students in the past, is these like really, really flexible hour sets for their tutors. It also allows you, if you choose, to blend in online appointments with your in-person appointments. So tutors can be accepting an online appointment during their shift at the center in the day. But so, yeah, I'd say that's the kind of core first model to consider, is this basic 8 to 5 normal center plus adding these off-hour online appointments. That's kind of the first place that I would start. Thoughts on
Right.
that?
So tutors could even, like you said, work from home for a certain day or in the afternoons, or
Yep.
like at off hours, like you said, just helping programs kind of add more overall availability.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
And just to follow up on that, I think that's the other important design decision that a lot of directors that we're speaking to are really considering right now, is how flexible are we going to be with tutors controlling their own calendar? We have seen a lot of really successful programs over the last year, giving more and more autonomy to tutors. Just as one example, Ben was saying you could allow tutors to work from home for a day. Tutors you could say you get 1 day a week where you can just have it be only Zoom for your shift. And that's a benefit we give to our tutors, and allow them to pick what day that would be and expect to see them for their other shifts in the center. You could use the flexible appointment hours for those evening hours where you tell them to put in whatever hours they want to after 5 p.m. and on the weekends, and you're going to get paid for whatever hours you work during those times. So tutors, if they choose to, they can put their hours all the way up to midnight or all the way up to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. And students can see those, and if they book them, and if those sessions actually happen, then you can pay those tutors for those hours worked. So that kind of flexible hour set where tutors are putting in their hours of their choosing outside of those scheduled shifts in the center, has been really successful. It's really cash efficient for your center in that you're paying tutors for what they're working. And it also creates this really big availability set beyond just the normal 8 to 5 hours that you might have used before.
Right. And I can imagine there's some people out there right now that are kind of thinking, oh, this looks good, but what control will I have as far as, can I edit calendars? If I want to change their location, can I do that? So what can you tell everyone about that admin editing option, which I agree with you that most of the directors I work with, they like letting the tutors put their own hours in. But obviously there's cases where you do want to have a little more control. So what can you say about that feature for admins to actually edit tutor availabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that has traditionally not been a part of Penji, and it's something that a lot of centers have asked us for over the years. And it's been, our answer, which we still believe, is that having tutors have ownership over their calendars and inputting it themselves is a good thing. And it's a good design thing to think about and get tutors a little bit more involved. And so some centers will let their tutors do it, but other centers will tell them, here's your hours and please go put them into Penji. Now, we do understand that not having that total control from the admin side, actually editing their calendars directly is a little hard, and sometimes you really want that. So that's a feature we're finally building and should be ready by the start of fall semester. This would be, you can click on a tutor in the admin panel and you can actually edit their calendar for them. As mentioned, we still really like the idea of encouraging your tutors to have more ownership and autonomy, but this is sort of a fail-safe for programs. Is if you need to go and make a change to the tutor's availability, maybe they called you and they're sick and you just want to go in there and do it, that will be possible now. So that's in progress right now. Ricardo is working on it and should be ready by our projected kind of launch date of that is around September 1st, but it might be quite a bit sooner. So I'm sure we'll talk about that in a future Penji Weekly, and there'll be a training video on that as well. So we'll follow up, but that is coming. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So we do have a few questions coming in. So thanks, Alan, for asking questions. Anyone else, feel free to put questions in there if they're coming up. The first one is pretty interesting. I'll ask it to you first, and then I have some thoughts too. But Alan asks, I see you've added times to your calendar, some for in person, some for online. But let's say you tutor both computer science 210 and math 140, but I only want you tutoring one of those in person at the drop-in time you added. Can that be done?
Got it. So I think, let me just make sure I'm understanding the question, Ben. Let me know what you think. But so we are looking to say for a specific drop-in time where they are scheduled in the center, can we make that drop-in time course specific, not just location specific, but course specific, where students will not see, say it's CS 210, right? Students won't see that Math 140 is supported at that time, just CS 210. Is that your understanding, Ben?
Correct.
Yeah, so good question, something that's not supported yet, but it's on the roadmap. So kind of how we're viewing this feature here is that our chunks used to be just totally kind of agnostic. Every course was supported, every location was supported, every mode, all that. Well, not mode, but so what we've done is we've just added the attribute of locations to these hour chunks, and now that is in there, and you can say, well, this is a location specific. Course specific is next on the list. It's not something that's going to be ready by the start of fall, but it's something that should be ready throughout this academic year at some point. So that's on the roadmap, Alan. But right now, an hour chunk for drop-in will list all of the tutors' courses as available because they're there. So that's how that works now.
Perfect. And let's jump over to Sarah's question now. Sarah from Georgia asks, is there a way to make it so tutors cannot schedule hours at a location during a time when the location is not available? If not, I'm worried it'll be impossible to make sure tutors are meeting required hours to offer tutoring because those hours still show in their total available hours listed on the admin page, even though students cannot book that time because the location is not available at that time.
Got it. So I think the question is that the tutor availability entry allows them to put in times anytime, even if it's outside the location's available hours. And I think you're correct about that, Sarah, in that the system will block bookings and it won't communicate that as available, but I think tutor entry is still allowed, which maybe doesn't make all that much sense. So let me follow up with Ricardo on that one. That's a good question. I think it could be as simple as sort of displaying a warning when they try to save it and be like, hey, you've scheduled some out of hour times. It's after 8 p.m. on this location's day. I think one of the challenges is going to be that for appointment availability, maybe you're saying all locations and you're saying till 10 p.m. for a certain chunk. Well, maybe one of the locations is open at 10 p.m., one of them is not. So I think we'll have to look into the design on that front, which is like communicating various locations availabilities when you're adding a chunk for multiple locations. I think that's probably why we haven't done that yet, but maybe it's doable. So we'll write that one down as sort of a next level one on this feature. How can we sort of block tutors from inputting times that are not correct for a certain location? Yeah.
Right. And we can talk about this more, but I feel like even if one of the locations is available during the entire time block,
Yeah.
it would work. So just in case anyone's kind of not following, right now, you set the hours for a location. So you might say the Student Success Center is open from 10 to 5. And if a tutor puts in hours from 10 to 8, those last 3 hours, they can't be booked. We'll override their availability with, hey, the director said the center closes at
Yeah.
5. I'm not going to let you book there. But right now, we don't stop the tutor from putting those hours in. So even though no one can book an appointment, they could still put the hours in, and it would, on their end, look like they're available. So that's what we're talking about. Sounds like we're going to talk to Ricardo about kind of getting that on the next level of the feature. And Ben, you'll follow up about that.
Yeah. And just to make sure I understand the issue with this, Sarah, and feel free to add in the chat if I'm getting this right. You require tutors to offer a certain amount of hours, and this is, you use a lot of tutor autonomy, and you just say, please input 10 hours or more of availability throughout the week, and that's your requirement. And you're concerned that if they're adding hours outside of the location hours, well, those aren't real hours. It's not meeting that requirement, and the tutor doesn't even know that, so it's not their fault. So that's my understanding. Let us know if that's that implication is right. Good, that is correct. Great.
Okay, so thanks, Sarah, for that one. And then Alan has another one now. We're talking about the value of tutor autonomy, but I'd be curious about adapting Penji use for a training wheels model for new tutors so they have more initial structure and support.
Yeah.
So this is kind of an example of why I think it'd be really valuable if we keep building this community and get a place for directors to talk to each other, because there's probably a lot of directors out there, maybe on this call, maybe not on the call, that have experience onboarding new tutors and thoughts about getting them comfortable with it. Ben, do you have any kind of thoughts to share about that, about like a training wheels model for new tutors? And Alan, it could be useful to hear, what do you have in mind by more initial structure and support? Like, what might that look like?
Yeah, feel free to add that, Alan. But I think I do get what you're saying here, and I think it should work just fine. The way that programs seem to view this spectrum, one end is being total tutor autonomy. Go put in your own schedules, deal with it yourself, figure everything out with the students and all of that. The other is very mandated, where you're like, here's your exact hours. You're going to be paid for all of them. You need to be available for all of them, and we're going to be monitoring everything down to a T. So the midpoint is that, you can have some tutors who you say, put in your own hours. Here's your requirement. We trust you a lot, and we're going to pay you for what you work. But new tutors, you could still do the same, where you could actually give them specific hours when they're coming on board and say, here's your hours. I'm actually going to put them into the system for you. Let me know if these hours don't work or whatever. And you're going to be paid 5 hours a week because I'm giving you these 5 hours, and you need to be available for all of them. And so, but your other tutors can be doing a little more autonomous there on that front. The other way to think about it is sometimes folks will have drop-in hours and appointment hours, and the drop-in hours are those where you're definitely paying them no matter what, because they're coming into the center for this 5 hours a week. Then you can have those appointment hours be that flexible tutor autonomy thing where they're putting in all the hours they want and you're paying them for whatever appointments are booked. So you got like that core hour floor of 5 hours plus whatever cherry on top is for the appointments. So with your new tutors, you could have them just working the drop-in until you make sure they're fully comfortable and onboarded and trained and all of that. And then you could have like turn them on or say, now you can put in your appointment availability now that you're fully onboarded. So a couple ideas there, but I think you can manage that with your tutors in Penji and just direct certain tutors to do one thing and other tutors to do something else. So that'd be my first take on that. Let me know if that kind of answered the question or was up that alley.
Perfect. So let's see. Yeah, I guess another thing we can talk about is the tutor availability locking.
Nice. Yeah.
That is a new feature that I saw today was actually pushed to in review by Ricardo.
Yeah.
So I believe that means the feature is ready. He's just doing code review, stress testing.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and what that's going to allow directors to do.
Yeah, so this is sort of that one end of the spectrum where you'd like to have total control over tutor schedules. Um, a very normal flow here is Penji can be used to collect initial availability at the start of a semester, let's say before a semester. So August 1st, you got all your tutors onboarded, hopefully, probably not. And then you basically will tell them, hey, everyone, please input your available times for tutoring this semester into Penji. Those will show up, you'll see them in your admin panel, and you'll understand when are your tutors free. And then what you can do is sort of down select from those times and build your own schedule. So you collect the availability in Penji, and then you say, all right, I'm going to say this 30% of those hours tutor A, this is going to be your schedule. Now, before, you would have to follow up with them and individually and say, here's your schedule via email. Please go adjust your Penji schedule yourself and put it in. That's no longer necessary based on the feature that we just described earlier, where you'll be able to actually just edit their availability for them. So this seems to be the emerging flow: is collect availability, down select for them, and then the final thing that Ben just mentioned is locking. So once you've gotten schedules to be where you want them to be, you can just turn off the ability for tutors to edit their schedules themselves. And so you've kind of got total control now over the availability. There's a bit of a softer feature on that front, which is just you can get notifications of when tutors edit their availability to keep track of any changes happening. So you've got a sort of a continuum of how much control you want, but now we have the total control thing where it's just editing and locking, and you call it good. Yeah.
Yep. So kind of it comes down to, do you want tutors if they are sick for a day or on vacation? Do you want them to be able to go in and remove those times themselves, or do you want them to email you and then you go into the admin panel and change that? And if you want to do that way, then you would want to lock availabilities after the semester starts.
Yeah.
And yeah, that one I guess would probably be out in a week or two, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Just a heads up, Ben. I think there's a couple questions. I can't tell who it's from, but there's one above near the top: when appointments are created from the ad. This is in chat. Is there a bird's eye view of all scheduled sessions? Did you see that one? It's like from
I'm just seeing it now. I actually look in the chat. So
yeah, so the answer to that is yes. There's a bird's eye view of all scheduled sessions. So you'll have a big table of upcoming sessions. You'll be able to filter those down. That's in our data dashboard. So you'll just be able to see any upcoming session and their status. And that's actually in multiple places. So that should be easy to do. And I'm not exactly sure who that came from, but yeah.
From Dave.
From Dave.
Perfect. So let's see. I think that kind of is the overview that we had planned for the tutor calendar. As far as like the length of these, we're planning on 30 minutes to 45 minutes. So you can kind of come informally, pop in, leave, do email while we're talking. Maybe you're already doing that. And we're happy to kind of stick around and answer questions if folks think it's helpful. As far as what we're kind of thinking going forward, so we know that some really big topics coming up are going to be marketing for one. We'll start with that. Obviously, Penji, we originally were an in-person app where everything was done in person. Our first program at CU Boulder was all in person. And now, last year, which was our biggest growth year, going to 25 schools or so, that was all online. So all the marketing that we were helping programs with was, here's this video, put it on your website. Here's, a good way to link to the web platform. So this year, there's kind of back to the unique challenge of marketing in person. That could be flyers with QR codes. And we basically do want to support you in that. So right now, if you have any topics related to marketing, questions, things like how can we effectively communicate Penji to students, put those in the chat right now, or the Q&A, and we'll address that next week. And then Ben, do you want to say anything about kind of how we're viewing marketing and helping centers reach more students, which is one of our main goals as a company?
Yeah. So yeah, as Ben just said, usage of your services to us is maybe the most important metric that we can help with. And it's something that we want to get better and better at. So the ways that we do that so far, everyone likes the mobile app. that's a way to reach students in a way that you probably haven't been able to before. So that's an example. Reducing friction, there's another item where people have been concerned about the length of the profile creation screen in Penji. We're improving that by the start of fall, where it's simply single sign-on and you're in, and you can start booking. So we're really focusing on features and things that can help you improve the usage of your services. This is just, to us, this is the most important measure of impact. There's other things like quality of the session that you deliver to students that matter, but utilization is also impacted by that quality. So if you have higher quality sessions, students will come back more and you'll see that number go up. So we have this concept, and this is something that's big in startups, is this core key performance indicator for centers. And everyone chooses their own, you have your own, but for us, just seeing that usage of your center go up, we think will help the most, both from the student side, from the center funding side. It's just a great argument for asking to expand your center. So as Ben said, next week we're going to talk about marketing. This is something that we haven't invested a lot in yet in helping you do. You've been making your own flyers, you've been making your own materials and all of that. We think this is a high leverage point where we can assist new programs coming on. If we've got a nice set of pre-produced flyers that you can customize with your own brand, and take your pick of what you feel kind of fits your center. We think that could be really helpful this fall, especially as you get all your tables back. And shout out to Sarah and UGA. We saw on Twitter you guys had a table and a picture of your kind of marketing to new freshmen. And we want to be able to give you some things to include about Penji that would make students excited to get it on their phone or to check it out and say, oh, this looks really modern and what a great way to engage with the center. So I think that's the idea. And I think a final thing that'll be fun is, we did spend a few years doing all this marketing ourselves as a private tutoring company. We got some fun stories there that they might be a little surprised about, kind of how we've done that. So hopefully it'll be entertaining and also useful and give you some ideas of new marketing tactics and things to try this year to really help utilization go up. So.
Yeah, and the other topic that we've been hearing a lot about is Tutor Highland. So do any of you out there, is that a big challenge for you? We've heard from some directors that that's actually their biggest challenge. Like what's the number one thing that you feel challenged by, and we'll say hiring tutors. So we do have a little bit of experience with that as well. As Ben said, we were, running a private tutoring company, at 10 different schools. So we had kind of a hiring apparatus, and we can share what we've learned from that. But also part of the point of this is to bring you all together. You all do a ton of hiring. You all are probably some of you really good at this. So is tutor hiring a challenge? If so, let us know in the Q&A, in the chat, in emails. We basically want to solicit topics that would be interesting to you so we can continue to cover them every week. Obviously, there will be an emphasis on Penji features as well. The drop-in kiosk is a new one. The admin scheduled sessions is a new one. So I imagine we'll kind of get to those and other topics as well. Ben, any kind of final notes as we're sort of wrapping up here, and anyone listening, if you do have questions or comments, go ahead and put it in the chat right now.
Yeah, I'd say you did a good job covering it all. We're excited about these, and it's, I think, a good reception so far from all of you in terms of this being a useful thing. So I think our goal is just to have an anchor of communication. One school that's coming on board mentioned a concern, and they said, well, as Penji starts becoming not a startup and bigger and out of more schools, like we've seen this happen before where we'll lose the connection to the team that we thought we had or whatever. And that's something that's really important to us to maintain. So this is one attempt at that. And we've got some other things in the oven, so to speak, to make sure that that doesn't happen. And, as we get bigger, we don't suddenly just, lose touch, right, with everybody. So this is one of those, and we hope to keep doing this for a long time. It seems good so far. And as Ben mentioned, the Discord is something we're looking to spin up so that we can take any conversations after this into the Discord. So Ben said, what are your topics that matter, or tutor hiring, like what are some tips that you might want to share? You'll be able to post those in the Discord in a certain channel, and then we'll take that and integrate it into the agenda for next week. And maybe if you want to get on and do a little presentation yourself in one of these weeklies and tell people about one specific tutor hiring flow or something like that, we're going to love to feature people on that front as well, and kind of bring some partners on board and to talk too. So just some ideas, and we'll kind of go where the sort of community leads on this front. But yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna add some cool segments, maybe a little intro music, you know, maybe a cool name. We'll just see how this unfolds. We decided we were gonna do this on like Friday of last week or something. So it's all coming together pretty quickly. But thanks everyone for tuning in. One final time, I'm gonna paste the link to sign up for our newsletter in the chat. Once again, you know, as we're kind of rolling this out, we'll send it to all of our partners and prospective new partners. But after those first 2 episodes, you have to be on the email list to kind of keep in touch. And then once we get the Discord community rolling, we'll post obviously the recordings and invites there as well. So thanks everyone for coming. I have meetings with some of you later today, so I'll see you at those. And great, we're moving to Discord. Yeah, Discord, I mean, it's one of the reasons we chose it is because it's such a useful platform for tutoring centers. So it's partially to help everyone get comfortable. I know we have some Discord power users in the audience, so we'll be kind of leaning on them a little to help teach everyone. But thanks everyone for coming. You know, we'll send this recording out via email and hope to see you all next week. Just Michelle, I see that final question. The Discord has not been created yet. So probably around episode 2 or 3, we'll cover Discord and we'll maybe do a whole feature on that. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Talk to you soon. See you soon. Next week, same time.
Cool. Thanks, man. Bye.